here's Brody Brazil.
As you know, we spend a lot of time discussing the business of Major League Baseball here on this YouTube channel, but let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about 2025 headlines on Major League fields this past regular season. Now we're in postseason mode. We can look back at some of the biggest stories and things that transpired within the last 6 to 7 months. Beginning with this, 2025 across Major League Baseball was the first season since 2005 that did not feature a no-hitter. And that's crazy because I felt like there were a rash of no-hitters and even perfect games in recent years, like more than you would think or expect. But this year, no-nos for the first time in 20 years. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he came so close at Camden Yards. He was 1 out away against Baltimore back on September 6th. And crazy enough, right after that hit, he comes out of the game. The Orioles rally. The Dodgers actually lose that game. Baltimore had no runs when Yamamoto came out of the game. The Orioles end up beating the Dodgers 4-3, final score. But no-hitters in 2025. Also for the first time in Major League Baseball history, 3 players hit 4 home runs in single games: Suarez, Kurtz, and Schwarber. There were also 19 instances of a player hitting 3 or more homers in a game, which was tied with 2016 for the third most in history behind 2001 and 2019 when that happened, 22 each. It's crazy that you have home runs coming at such a high clip. And as we'll see later in this video, batting averages and total hits down. I mean, if this doesn't tell the story and the narrative of what's going on in Major League Baseball, pitchers are trying to throw as hard as they can. It's all about velo, velocity. Can I throw 97? Can I throw 99? Can I throw 102? For hitters, it's all about exit velocity, like how hard is that ball coming off the bat and what's the launch angle. Players are very tuned into the things that teams want. Offense, home runs. They'll take strikeouts if that comes with home runs. They want walks too, but they primarily want home runs. For pitching, they want the hardest velocity and to try and get swing and miss. Literally is as simple as that. So a lot of players with big breakout home run games. Cal Raleigh became the first switch hitter and first catcher to have 60 home runs in a season. His 11 multi-home run games tied the MLB record. Congratulations to Cal. Congratulations to the Seattle Mariners in winning the American League West. What a frustrating existence it's been for them, literally in the last 20 years. There's always another team that spoils your day. And the A's were good for a lot of years. And the Astros were good for a lot of years. And then the Rangers were good for a lot of years. And the Angels were good for a lot of years. That division has always had 1 or 2 teams that are like, wow, they are hard to beat. And it was just never the Mariners' turn. They had Ichiro for a lot of years. They had King Felix for a lot of years. They just could not get consistently over the hump. And maybe now with Cal, they've got somebody that can, lead the staff, hit home runs, be a difference maker, and we'll see what their playoff run looks like up in Seattle. But a team that hasn't got there in a lot of years and didn't do it regularly, so kind of hard to root against an underdog like that. Willie Adames in San Francisco became the first Giant to have 30 home runs or more, well, he had 30 exactly, since Barry Bonds hit 45 in 2004. Think about that for just a second. The Giants had gone, we can talk about it in past tense now, they had gone more than 20 years without a single 30 home run hitter. And they came close. They had a couple 27s and 28s and I think a 29 along the way. Matt Chapman get to 29 last year? But it is amazing. 30 home runs is something. But come on, you'd have to think with all the players they brought in over all the years, all the power hitters, somebody would just run into 30 one year. They would go off. They just never had that. This Giants team in 2021 had 107 wins, and that's in recent years. How about, wait a second, they won a World Series in 10, 12, and 14. And nobody ever hit 30 home runs? Since Barry Bonds did in 2004. So Willie Adames gets to 30, kind of breaks that curse in San Francisco. Kansas City Royals star Bobby Witt Jr. led the majors with 184 hits. Now, wait a second. We just talked about how many players had multi-home run games, 3 home run games, 3 4-home run games individually, but 184 hits is the fewest ever by the MLB leader in a full season. 184 hits leads baseball, but that's the fewest ever in baseball history by a leader. The previous low was Willie Mays with 190 in 1960. That record has stood for a very long time. And no knock against Willie Mays. He just had a really good year and was better than anybody else in 1960. But it's been that long. So what are we thinking and saying about the bats of Major League Baseball here in 2025? Not hitting for average, hitting for power, certainly. But just a lesser amount of hits, a surprisingly low amount of hits. Trey Turner's 304 batting average was the second lowest in history for a batting champion, ahead of only Carl Yastrzemski, who hit 301 in 1968. Those are also the only two times in history that the batting champion was the only 300 hitter in the league. Wait a second. The only 300 hitter in Major League Baseball this year was Trey Turner? Am I reading that right? Those are the only two times in history that the batting champion was the only 300 hitter in the league. What's happening with baseball? What's happening with the bats? I thought this was supposed to be the year of the torpedo bat. Remember that in the first weekend of the regular season? Man, the Yankees are launching home runs. Well, I guess they all still hit home runs. They just did not hit for average. Torpedo bat's not going to help you hit for average, by the way. Oh, speaking of the Yankees, they had their 33rd consecutive winning season to move into the second longest such streak in North American sports history. Gee, I wonder who had the longest streak of consecutive winning seasons. The only longer streak was, their own 39-year streak from 1926 to 1964. And yeah, you can imagine all the names and players and rosters that those Yankees teams look like from the 20s to the 60s. 33 consecutive winning seasons. You know what? I mean, you can talk about how much they spend. You can talk about the type of players that they procure. You can talk about, trust me, I recognize all the criticisms. I'm understanding of that. I don't want to say I'm right there with you because I don't lose any sleep at night about the Yankees and their success. But my point is that even if you throw all the money in the world at the baseball team, they're not always a sure thing to be at least a 500 team. And you know what? Spending money just keeps the window open. It keeps you in the realm of possibility of being successful. And maybe that's what's happened here with the Bronx Bombers, right? Because they're just always kind of in the mix. They're always in the conversation. So like a bad season for them in the last 33 years is somewhere right at or a little bit above 500. And that is crazy. I mean, we've seen like the White Sox with more than 120 losses this year. Did the Rockies end up getting to 120 losses this year too? Like, the point is, we've seen a lot of teams go straight to the dumpster. And yet here's the Yankees for 33 years in a row with a better than 500 record. Terry Francona with Boston, Cleveland, and now Cincinnati joined Dusty Baker with the Cubs, Nats, and Astros, and Joe Torre from the Braves, Yankees, and Dodgers years as the only managers to make the postseason in his first season with 3 different teams. Now, Dusty's pretty famous for that, right? Cubs, Nats, and Astros first year, like you want to go to the playoffs. And I always felt like, too, with the Astros and the controversy that they were in the midst of, it's like they didn't deserve somebody like Dusty Baker, a legend of the game, a legend of the dugout, to come in and settle things down. But that's what he did there. Same thing with Terry Francona. Tito came into the Reds, brings him to the postseason. It just lets you know that there is something to those gentlemen, to what Joe Torre did, to what Dusty Baker did, and to what Terry Francona is doing now. It's not a mistake that you make the playoffs 3 straight times or with 3 different teams in your first try at it. Rafi Devers became the first player since Justin Morneau back in 2008, heyday of the Twins times right there, to play in, 163 games in a season? How do you even do that? Well, the answer is simple. You get traded midseason. And at that point, you had played all the games for the Red Sox, which Rafi did. And at that point, they were just a game or a day or 2 ahead of where the Giants were. So Rafi Devers gets to say he played all 163 games in a season. And that obviously hasn't happened in a long time since Morneau did it with the Twins in 2008. You don't even necessarily have the opportunity to do this. It takes a lot of things lining up, like the schedule and the timing, but the fact that you had already played all the games with your former team and you continue to play all the games with your brand new team. Hey, knock on wood for Rafi, just being healthy for a full season in Major League Baseball is a huge accomplishment. The San Diego Padres drew a club record 3.437 million fans this season. Second most in the majors, trailing only the Dodgers at 4.012 million. Now, in fairness, Dodger Stadium is huge compared to Petco Park with attendance and that difference right there. But look, in SoCal, they are packing the stadiums. And even in Anaheim, with a losing and struggling and frustrating team like the Angels, they still draw great crowds down there. LA is the first team to draw over 4 million fans since the '08 Yankees and Mets, and it's very specific why I'm mentioning those because both of those teams played their final seasons at Old Yankee Stadium and Shea Stadium. So everybody was coming there despite how the Yankees and Mets were doing in '08 just to say farewell and goodbye to Old Yankee Stadium and to Shea Stadium before New Yankee Stadium and Citi Field. But the Padres drawing a club record 3.437 million fans. I'm telling you, San Diego as a sports town is bonkers. The fact that they only have the Padres definitely helps the Padres. It makes me remind you, though, the Chargers should still be in San Diego. Well, just like the A's should still be in Oakland, the Chargers should still be in San Diego. That's what a sports town can do when you've got the right players, when you're rallying around something, and when you've got momentum in a beautiful ballpark. That's exactly what happens. And by the way, was attendance up or down across baseball this year? I'll look to do a future video on that. But those two ballparks are going to offset any other ballparks across the league that struggled, or the fact that, the A's and Rays played all season in a minor league ballpark that seated 10 or 11, 12, 14,000. The Rays out of necessity. The A's did that by choice. Okay, the Cleveland Guardians, they won the AL Central. They made the playoffs. Obviously, congratulations to their skipper and friend of the channel, Stephen Vogt. He is a tremendous dugout leader and manager for that baseball club. But the Guardians kind of went through a rough spot. Slade Ciccone on July 4th said after an 8-game losing skid, quote, "We're going to see ourselves in a great spot at the end of the season." I fully believe that. And that just is an amazing thing that over the course of 162, and when you start your baseball season in late March and you're ending it here in late September, a lot of twists and turns can happen. And you generally like to avoid 8-game skids, but you're probably going to have an 8-game win streak along the way that totally evaporates this. It just goes to show you that, yeah, some teams have storybook seasons and there was never really a challenge and it always felt like the trajectory was there and it was easy. It's never easy, but sometimes it's really hard at times. And in the big picture, you look back and say, well, first in the division, what was the problem? It's nice to have confidence. It's nice to have a pitcher like Ciccone who can look at this in the moment and say, hey, don't worry, we're going to be fine. And I think a lot of that starts at the leadership level. By the way, Cleveland averaged 3.97 runs per game this season, the fewest by an AL playoff team in a non-shortened season since the 1972 Detroit Tigers and the A's of that same year at 3.90. Again, it's the offense thing in baseball this year. Home runs, yes, but not a lot of offense, not a lot of hitters with hits and hitters hitting for average. Again, Cleveland averaging 3.97 runs a game this year, the fewest by an American League playoff team since 1972. So there are my 2025 Major League Baseball regular season headlines. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Maybe we can do a quick recap of round by round of this postseason. I'm interested to see how it goes. Obviously, it's a no horse in the race type situation. I don't really have a favorite personally or a connection personally, so I'll be watching it from afar. Hopefully you will be too. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Was there something super interesting? Did I miss something? Did I leave something out? Let me know. Also, thumbs up while you're down there helps me, the video, and the channel. And don't forget to subscribe because I would love to see you back here next time.